Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Medar Gravei-Lazi, and coming up in today's newscast. Thousands of Israelis march in a flag parade showing their love for Jerusalem, Israel's eternal capital, on Jerusalem Day. The Codex Sassoon, the oldest nearly complete Hebrew Bible, sells for $38.1 million at auction. And join us for this week's Wine of the Week featuring Elvi Wines. Today, Israel celebrates Jerusalem Day. The annual holiday marks the liberation of the eastern side of the Israeli capital. It commemorates the day in 1967 when Israeli troops entered the old city of Jerusalem and reached the Temple Mount and united the city. Israel marks the holidays with ceremonies, memorials, and a giant flag march. More in this report from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Yom Yerushalayim, or Jerusalem Day, is celebrated annually according to the Hebrew calendar, which is the 28th of Iyar. That was the date in 1967 when Israeli troops liberated the eastern side of the city, including the Old City, in the Six-Day War. Prime Minister Netanyahu expressed the feelings of the nation.
ביום ירושלים אנחנו מעלים שוב את ירושלים לראש שמחתנו. אבל האמת היא שאנחנו עושים את זה יום-יום, שנה-שנה, ובעצם בעמנו מאות בשנים, לשנה הבאה בירושלים, לשנה הבאה בירושלים הבנויה.
Festive ceremonies are held in Jerusalem. Memorial services take place at Ammunition Hill, remembering the soldiers who fell in Jerusalem during the Six-Day War. Netanyahu recalled the war, the Jewish people's long history in the city, and its development as Israel's united eternal capital.
באמצע המאה ה-19 כבר היה רוב יהודי בירושלים, וכמובן זה לקח עוד 100 שנים עד חזרנו וכוננו את מדינתנו ואת ירושלים כבירתנו הרשמית, וזה לקח עוד 19 שנים עד היום הגורלי הזה ב-1967, ששחררנו את ירושלים ואיחדנו אותה מחדש. איחדנו אותה, היא פרצה לאופקים חדשים, היא נהייתה עיר, מטרופולין ענק בישראל. אנחנו בונים אותה, אנחנו בונים בתוכה, ואנחנו מאפשרים לכל תושביה חיים טובים יותר בבירה הנצחית שלנו.
Even as Israel celebrated Jerusalem Day, Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists issued ugly warnings from Gaza.
القدس كانت وما زالت تشكل صاعقة تفجير وقنبلة الثورات وستبقى كذلك بإذن الله عز وجل بدءا من ثورة البراق وليس انتهاء بالثورة الثائرة اليوم.
Just days after the ceasefire with Islamic Jihad, the Prime Minister said the terrorist threats continue, but so does Israeli resolve.
לאחרונה, במבצע מגן וחץ, אבל כל הזמן. האיומים לא בהכרח פוסקים, אבל היכולת שלנו להתמודד מול אויבינו, להדוף אותם ולהבטיח את הביטחון שלנו בירושלים ובכל חלקי מדינתנו, זה מאבק תמידי, אבל יחד אנחנו יכולים לו.
The main event of the day is the March of the Flags. For this event, thousands of people come to Jerusalem, mostly young people from the religious Zionist movement. The celebrants conduct a large procession accompanied by song, dance, and flag waving, which starts from the city center, enters the Old City, and ends at the Western Wall in a mass prayer of thanksgiving. In the morning hours, hundreds of Jews visited Temple Mount, including cabinet ministers. And even as Israelis celebrate Jerusalem Day, Israel has ensured freedom of worship to Muslims on the Temple Mount, as it does every day, as well as freedom of worship for Jews and Christians and all other religions.
And joining us now with more on Jerusalem Day from the Flag March is Josh Haston, international spokesperson for the Gush Etzion Regional Council. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Dar.
So what's the mood in Jerusalem today?
So the music just started just several minutes ago, and I hope you can still hear me, but it's very, very festive. A lot of the youngsters are gathering now, getting ready to march, heading towards the Old City of Jerusalem, and then on to the Kotel, the Western Wall, for the main ceremony in just a few hours. Extremely calm on one hand, thank God, in terms of the security situation, and on the other hand, everyone is happy. This is a true holiday here in Jerusalem, our eternal capital.
And so I know you're there with your family. The route goes through the old city of Jerusalem, including the Muslim quarter. You must be pretty confident that the march will proceed peacefully and quietly.
Well, definitely on our side, I'm confident it'll proceed peacefully and quietly. It was just 2 years ago when the route was altered and people were not allowed to go through the Muslim quarter to the Western Wall. And we had a bunch of rockets launched at us. So we're peaceful. I expect it to be peaceful for the rest of the day, and it should remain so. I see no reason why it should be peaceful today here in Jerusalem.
And why is it important for you to take part in this event?
This is a historic event. After 2,000 years, finally we have a Jewish government in Jerusalem. The streets of Jerusalem are full of Jewish children who are singing and dancing. There's no reason we shouldn't celebrate it. It's one of the highlights of the year for me. And after 19 years of an illegal Jordanian occupation between 1949 and 1967, Jerusalem is finally united. There was an ethnic cleansing year that took place after the War of Independence. Jews could not go to our holy sites, to the Temple Mount, to the Western Wall below it. So it is a true reason to celebrate a joyous day, a holiday. And more people should join us. I was listening to your report just before. Yes, the majority is from the national religious camp, but I wait for the day when the rest of the country, those who don't affiliate necessarily with the national religious camp, join us here in Jerusalem. This event is open to all, and I wish more people would come out as well.
And there's no getting around that this is a somewhat controversial event. Many critics are saying, why march through the Muslim quarter? I mean, what's your response to this?
Well, I would say if anyone who's been to Jerusalem knows, Jerusalem has a significant Arab population, an Arab population which can go anywhere in the city. The western side of the city, eastern side of the city, the mall, the movie theaters, wherever it is, you can find Arabs. So I don't see any reason why Jews can't also go into a place which is called the Muslim quarter, but it actually does have a Jewish presence all year round. I don't see what the controversy is, and I don't see that being the real story. The real story is our return to Zion, a return to our homeland, and our return to our eternal capital. We're the only people in the history of the world that ever called Jerusalem our capital city. So I don't see any reason why we can't feel free to walk anywhere in this town.
And, so what would your message be to the Arab population in the city on this day?
My message would be and if the Arabs were willing to admit it, they would say that life for them is better here in Jerusalem, here in Israel, than any other Middle Eastern country. I guarantee you, again, if they were willing, they would rather be in Jerusalem than be in Yemen or be in Syria or some of these other countries where they don't have equal rights, where they don't have education, where they don't have healthcare, where they don't have all the other things that are offered to them. So I think that Arabs, if they're willing to admit it, and again, that's an if, would say they're very happy to be here in Jerusalem with an Israeli government in control.
Absolutely, and it's important just to note, as you mentioned, that Jerusalem has been the capital of the Jewish people for over 2,000 years. And still on Jerusalem Day, as in every day, Israel is ensuring freedom of worship, freedom of religion for all religions. So, Josh,
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us from the march, and enjoy the march. Happy Jerusalem Day.
Thank you, Chag Sameach. Happy Jerusalem Day to all.
And moving on, during the latest escalation with Gaza, over 1,000 rockets were fired by the Palestinian Islamic Jihad. Some misfired back into Gaza, some were intercepted by the Iron Dome, while others landed in open areas. And so what happens to these rockets now? Well, a special unit within the Israel police is tasked with collecting all the rockets and rocket fragments. And ILTV was able to get a peek into these efforts this past week. Let's take a look.